Bienvenidos a Caminos Culturales. Yo soy Chuy Martínez. Este programa es dedicado a nuestra comunidad de habla hispana. En este programa exploraremos el arte, la poesía, la música, la historia de nuestra comunidad. Y ahora veamos lo siguiente. Bienvenidos a otro de sus programas, a Caminos Culturales. Yo soy Chuy Martínez. Y with me is one of the prophets that came back to her homeland after many years of being absent. Well, you've been here for a little while. Pola Lopez has been, like they said, it's nobody's a prophet in their own town. So she had to leave town in order to be recognized. Not that she wasn't recognized back then. She'd always been a wonderful, great visual artist and other talents, but mainly her medium is visual art. Pola has been through so much throughout her life, at least to what I have read. I met her way back. We're not even going to say how long. Pola, bienvenida al programa. Welcome.
Gracias. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This should be an interesting plática.
¿Verdad? Yeah, and we can use bilingual. We can do it in español si quieres, pero
No,
I know
bilingual's cool.
I know you're bilingual, so anyway, tell me a little bit about your background, your upbringing.
Okay. Where it all started.
Where it all started.
Okay, it comenzó en Las Vegas, Nuevo Mexico, Las Vegas, in La Plaza Vieja in Old Town, where I was born and raised. And I used to go to school at West Las Vegas High School. And I always had an interest in color since I was a little girl. All through grade school, I was very aware of the power of color. In fact, when I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Grego, she put me in a corner to paint on mimeograph sheets because I already knew how to read third grade level because my mom taught me how to read because she was so excited I was her first baby. So she'd put me in a corner to paint, and one day I had this mimeograph sheet she gave me. She says, "I'm a bluebird, paint me blue." Well, I said, I'm going to paint it red because I like red. So I got the red and I was painting it all red, and then before I knew it, I could feel the color and hear it really loud, and I painted my whole body out, and before I knew it, I was immersed in red paint. I painted the table, I painted the floor, everything. And then I look up and my teacher is screaming at me, "What are you doing? You made a mess." And I was like, her voice was going wah wah wah. You know how when you're in the zone? And I snapped out of it, and I'm like, oh my God. And she never let me paint again. She punished me, and she made me sit in the corner while she was teaching reading. And I would look out, because the old South Public School had these big windows. It was this old Victorian style. And I would look out at the sky and I would think, what does blue feel like if that's what red feels like? And so I started to just sit and look at color and explore the vibration and frequency of color. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it, right? And nobody to explain it to me. And so I always loved color, and I went that way through till high school. And I had no formal training because West Las Vegas didn't really have art. They had music, so I got into music. But I liked music because when I'm feeling the vibration of the color, I can hear it.
Wow.
So when I see color, I hear sound, and when I hear sound, I see color. And I didn't know that was a condition, So that's what got me into art. And what happened is that when I was a senior in high school, the Brown Berets took over my high school, the West Las Vegas High School. And they came and they slept in our gym, and they took over Highlands University. And they flew the American flag upside down under the Mexican flag. And the school board said, "Don't come to school. We're being taken over by radicals." And I'm like, what kind of radicals? Chicanos. And I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And they're painting murals in the courtyard, and they're doing all these they're doing things, right? And I said, I'm going to go see what they're doing. And I went to see what they were doing in the courtyard, and it was Los Guadalupanos from San Luis, Sam Leyva, and his brothers, and Gilberto Guzman,
Oh, yeah.
and Jerónimo Garduño, and they were painting these fabulous murals that I had never seen, imagery I had never seen before. Pyramids and danzantes and, tanks, and they were protesting the Vietnam War, because that was 1972. And powerful images, and and the colors were so bold and beautiful, and I was just blown away. And Sam told me, do you want to help? And I said, oh, I just want to watch. I want to watch, because I was so excited. And I just saw the power of art and the power of muralism to affect people and educate people. And that was my first experience with the Movimiento Chicano, right? And after that, I graduated, and I said, that's what I want to do. I decided at that moment, I want to be an artist. I want to be a muralist. That's my path. And so that's what I took, that path immediately after graduation.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about feeling the color and the rhythms and the flow of the energy that comes from it. I talk to a lot of artists, and they have the same experience. A lot of them, that how they get so immersed in the colors. I know that once you go through one of those experiences, you get inspired and want more and more. It's just like another world, no?
It's a constant. This is how I live. It's a condition, and it doesn't go away. It's not like, oh, I had that experience. This is just how my life is. So if I'm in areas where there's a lot of loud sounds or music, it's sometimes overwhelming for me, because it's like a concert of color as well. Or say I'll look at that mountain out there, and I'm hearing sound because of the color of the mountain, the vibration of the mountain. And when I go to paint it, then I translate it that way, and people will sometimes say, are you on drugs? Why is the color so intense? Oh, it's a Mexican thing. I says, no, it's a vibration thing. It's a frequency thing. Because that's a whole other level. See, people sometimes aren't aware of the color around them. They take it for granted.
That's true, because I remember people saying that about visual artists, that they must have been high in order to achieve that type of mastery, because it is. You guys are masters, and especially I was looking at the some of your work that expresses so much the moment, or the place, and that's one of the things that I always find fascinating. I do the same thing with music, and I know a lot of musicians also that write songs and write music. I imagine that's the same thing with you guys. So that's part of your inspiration. It is just seeing things and experiencing other things. Of course, we have to tell a story in 3 minutes, and you guys do it in one canvas. So it's very very interesting. Everything is universal. The sound is universal. The sound. I always believe that sound travels, and same thing with colors. The colors, they don't just stay in one painting. They do travel through, I guess, the memories of people, memories of other artists, and especially now social media. They just go all the way around. So when you were in LA, you said you belonged to a group, or you were independent, or
I've always
you were
been
teaching.
independent. I'm an independent artist.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I was in LA because through my years of being an artist and trying to explore and find myself as an artist, one of the last places I was in Santa Fe, and I had a studio gallery downtown Santa Fe. And this curator from California came into my space while his wife was doing a seminar, and he was excited to see my art. He says, "Oh my God, a Chicano artist!" And he said, where else can I see Chicano art?" I said, "This is pretty much it right here. This is it." And he said, "Oh, you need to come to LA. I'm curating a show of Chicano artists, our first show. It's called Aztlan and something, and Aztlan and something." And then he invited me to come to stay with him and his wife. He said, "You come and I'll introduce you to all the top dog Chicano artists. And because you need to know them, you need to be, that's your familia up in Califas." And I said, "Okay." So I went, and sure enough, he introduced me to them. And I went looking for the Chicano art movement, and I came back and I got all my stuff, and I just moved there impulsively because I wanted to have the experience of living my art and living in a community of Chicano artists, because previous to that I had been in New Mexico with La Cofradia, which we were Hispano artists, looking for identity and finding out that we were Indios and Españoles and Chicanindios, and we were just finding ourselves, And so Chicano here, the term was not that accepted in Nuevo Mexico. They kind of looked down on it. I don't know why, but so I thought, this is my chance to go and explore that, because the Chicano movement was powerful. It's what made me become an artist.
Yeah, and that's where it all started.
Yeah,
in
that's
LA.
where it all started for me.
Even you could get a PhD. We were talking about the RCAF, Jose Montoya. He got his PhD in Chicanismo, and that's something,
I love that.
in Calo
Paula,
yeah. So one of the things about California is that it produced a lot of artists, but there was a lot of artists from New Mexico that moved there in other places. I remember during times when I was there where that was becoming very popular, especially murals. Back in the 70s and 60s and 70s were probably when the RCAF was formed, and they were starting to paint a lot of murals, which was a lot of other cultures weren't doing it. The Chicanos started all the big murals. Of course, they got inspirations from Orozco and all the Rivera and all the Mexicano painters, but they started doing their own stuff. And I remember when you used to paint, when you had your studio there by on the east side of Las Vegas. It was a little studio. It was called the Colores.
La Galería.
La Galería Colores. Yeah, I remember that. But you weren't painting murals back then.
No, I wasn't. I hadn't started. I did have one planned to paint on that building, but then my father passed away, and things got kind of different, and I got uprooted, and I moved to Taos after that. So I didn't get to complete that mural, but I still have the maquette, and I may do it someday. I may do it somewhere. It may show up.
Yeah.
But I was planning it.
So you did the one at Plaza de Cultura? Is it Plaza de Cultura? What is it? Casa de Cultura, no? In Las Vegas. You didn't do that one?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you had.
No. I just completed one in Las Vegas, though, just a few months ago. And it was commissioned by the Main Street. And so it was called The Spirit of the Meadows. So it was just remembering my childhood and the wild nature of that place, because there's no place like Las Vegas, you know. And so it's got wild stallions, and I grew up with horses there, and the Hermit's Peak Mountain in the background, which is a very powerful symbol for us people who see it every day and grew up with it. Spiritual mountain, and then the fact that we went through the Hermit's Peak fire, and we lost our land. So it was just kind of a landscape painting, but remembering the underlying energy of the spiritual nature of that place, even though it's a wild place. It's a wild place.
So yeah, talking about that, this painting in the background, I was so impressed with it when I saw it. It was just like, whoa. It's like being in a fire and hitting you. It must have a big impact on you, and it probably has a lot of impact on people who see it. When you said you exhibited, you've been exhibiting here lately, having shows at.
Well, this painting, it came out of a series of fire paintings. After I came from California, it was during the height of COVID, so I escaped California because my daughter said, "Mom, if something happens to you up there and you're alone, nothing will happen. You know, nobody can go get you or nothing." So I moved back home just to wait out COVID, and we had land up in Rociada and Terremote, in family land. So I thought I'll build my studio and wait it out. I'll wait COVID out, and I'll put a little studio, and I'll just be happy in the montes and just be, you know, painting there. And I was planning to do that, and then the ranch burned down. The Forest Service started controlled burns and burned 300 and some thousand acres, and we were right at the center of the two fires that met. So we had a very severe burn, and we lost all the trees and our cabins and everything. So I was devastated.
Oh, I imagine.
I was really hurt by that because I had been caretaking that land since I was a little girl. And the trees especially, I'm a tree hugger. And so these paintings, I was invited to do a show at the Melissa Rogers Museum, a landscape show, and I couldn't get it together. And finally, like 2 months before the show was due, the curator asked me, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to do all these fire paintings." And she said, "Okay, do them." She just trusted me, and I did about 6 paintings, and they were healing to focus on the fire and to, you know, let it out. That was my form of expressing and letting it out, and it helped me a lot get through that PTSD.
So you're still going through all that, but your activism now is, you became an activist trying to get some restitution for a lot of those people, and you guys form a committee to fight FEMA, right?
Well, I'm not part of a committee, but we are a community, and we show up.
That's what I
we show up when we need to. But yeah, also fighting for, like, this painting is fighting for Mother Earth, La Tierra, you know, because these are ancestor trees, and imagine the oxygen that we no longer have because all those trees are gone. The beauty, the aesthetics, the cultura, everything, our querencia that was tied to that whole area, you know,
the
generations of people and the animals. So it's also in the name of the land, as well as, you know, our lifestyle, our cultura, that the people that live there for generations. And the compensation, it would be nice if they would compensate us duly to help us get through it, because it does help, but it's a battle. And so yes, there has to be some activism, because they think of us as lower class citizens. Well, I remember when I was in La Cofradía, the Hispanos, they are the artesanos hispanicos. Early on in my career, I made a lot of key paintings, I feel, that influenced my style. And one of them was of my daughter making tortillas, learning to make tortillas in my kitchen. And it was displayed at the Fine Arts Museum, the first time that I had ever showed Chicano artists or Hispano artists there, and I was kind of like the only woman in that group because I was the painter, and they used that image as a poster. So that was pivotal for me, and it was a large painting, and I think that made a big impact on the direction I went with my career because it was telling a story, and like you said, the color is important, and I'm a colorist, but the story has to go hand in hand with the color. So that told the story of passing on tradition, and also my daughter has blue eyes, and one of the comments I was getting was, why would you put blue eyes on her if she's Hispano or Mexicana or whatever? And I'm like, because she has blue eyes. And so that also added to us questioning our identity and the mix of our cultures, and trying to educate people about that at the show because they wondered why she had blue eyes. And so then we also, with the Cofradia, I think another painting that we went to the Gene Autry. We were invited to the Gene Autry Museum, and he flew us all out there, and they paid for us to stay there, and we got to meet him. And the painting I took out there was All One People, and that was a pivotal piece, and that's the Virgen de Guadalupe surrounded by flowers, and there's a little pin at the bottom that says we're all one people with the world in it, and me trying to remind the people that no matter all our cultural differences and what divides us, we're still all one people. We're all on the planet. We all have the same mother, So that was a pivotal piece, and the State Capitol Art Collection purchased that piece. They have it in their collection now, actually. So that was a major piece. And then I did a piece, Who Wins This Game?, which is in the collection of Millicent Rogers Museum. And that was a tic-tac-toe painting. And in each square of the tic-tac-toe game is a label of identity. Like there's Spanish American, there's a Latino and Chicano and all these labels. I filled all the squares with labels, Mestizo, Chicana India, all the labels you could think of. And then I put X's and squares like X's and circles like someone was playing the game. And either the X's or the circles could win on the last square. And my son said, Mom, who wins this game? I'm like, who wins this game of identity? Right, who wins this game? And that was where the title came from, because depends who puts the last X or circle. But the question was, who wins this game? Like, you win the game of identity when you identify yourself. You don't let anybody tell you who you are or identify you, because I through my career, I've been identified as a Chicano artist, as a Latino artist, as a Spanish artist, as a Hispanic artist. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'm all of those. And I will go with them because I can relate to all of them. So the lines of the game are not things that divide us again. They're things that bridge us to each other. My time in LA was my next step in my development. So when I got there, I was so excited, and I thought I found my familia, my Chicano familia. And they had a little bit of a hard time accepting me because I was too India. And I was in India, like from Mexico, I was in Mexica. I was more Apache. And so they had a hard time kind of letting me in. So they gave me a hard time to break into their little group. But because I wouldn't give up and I was there and I kept going, they accepted me and embraced me, So and Magoo, I always thank Magoo, the artist Magoo, that he knew New Mexico and he knew about our cultura, and he explained to them, this is our manita. And he would bring me into shows, and because they respected him, they were allowing me to come in because he would bring me. And so he helped me break through, because California, very territorial.
Yeah.
Very territorial. But once you're there, they support you. There was so much opportunity for an artist there. And I grew. and I started doing murals, and I was teaching in the probation camps and different art organizations, not-for-profit organizations, and doing murals with kids, teaching murals, doing murals in community, and having open studios where I could relate to the public. I've always had my own studio.
Hmm.
That's why I'm independent, and so that people could come into my studio and see what I'm doing, and I represent myself. Uh, so some of the paintings I did in LA that were pivotal was the Loteria pinup girl.
I remember that. Yeah,
And
I remember that.
yeah,
It was very popular.
yeah, it was so
Uh,
popular because loteria is a big thing, right? But I
hmm.
made my own loteria cards, and it all pertained to a bad breakup, a
Mm.
bad relationship breakup.
Hmm.
And so it's really funny. It's humorous take on what happens to men and women when they break up, and especially if they're, not in a happy place when they break up. But the woman is triumphant, and she's sitting on the throne where she's thrown Xochipilli, the prince of flowers and beauty, off, and she's taken over. And even though
Hmm.
she's been through this trauma of this breakup, she becomes triumphant with it. Uh,
Did you ever commercialize any of that,
well,
or?
I do sell prints and stuff, but the thing is that when I was there exploring the Chicano movement, I all of my images were what I was feeling from the community. So had more of a bent towards the Mexicanidad. Like
Hmm.
it was had a lot to do with quinceañeras or mariachi, or I was just whatever I would see and feel, I would put it on canvas. So it was
Mm.
so rich and so beautiful, and I mean, I was just fortunate to have that experience. I thrived there. I really did well there.
And I bet that's how it wasn't that hard to being accepted because you brought in a different perspective than no Mexicano perspective, and they probably saw you as an exotic, almost type of
Yeah,
person.
that's the word, exotic. And they'd always say, "Oh, I guess they do things different in Nuevo Mexico." And I'm like, "Yeah,
uh,
it's a little different, but
uh,
uh,
yeah, well, the language, the expressions,
the food,
la
la
comida,
comida,
los
everything."
dichos. I mean, so many things that you can only find here in New Mexico.
Mhm.
It's
Oh, but
it's
they
so
would have.
unique.
They love our green chile.
I
They would have
bet.
peladas, and they would bring the chili, sacks of hatch green chili over there and have big parties, and all peel it at the same time. And
I bet it was a very special.
it was very special. But
Yeah, yeah.
matachinas here were a big subject of mine when I was growing as an artist early on. Um, the matachinas very spiritual to me,
Mm-hmm,
and they didn't have that in California. They had their own sense of the danzantes were connected to the Mexica in Mexico, and
mm-hmm,
very powerful as well, but more energetic, a different kind of religious, spiritual belief.
mm-hmm,
Because I think the Matachinas were highly influenced by the Spanish and the Moors and stuff,
mm-hmm.
uh,
And the natives. I mean,
and the natives. Yeah, it's a
it's like
fusion of those
the
three.
los
Hmm.
Comanchitos.
Yeah. When
Are,
I when I moved to Taos, I had an art studio there as well, and I had a painting of a matachin dancer,
mm-hmm.
and on the wall. And my UPS guy came in, and he looked at the painting, and he says, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a matachin." And he said, "Well, what do you know about it?" And I'm like, "I know some stuff about it." And he started to tell me all about the tradition and everything. I said, "How do you know so much about it?" He says, "That's me."
Are you kidding?
He said,
Oh
"I'm
my
the
God.
capitan, and that's me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't know," because they're completely covered,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And when I was in California, in LA, there was a term that was coming up all the time. It's called artivist. And it was about artists who are activists. And they're very active, the Chicanos in LA, with their art. To you know, they're very traditional in that they're using their art as their voice to create social change or awareness or education. And I think that's why I went looking for them, because I have a big mouth, and I see things that I think should be changed or are not right or not just. And I want to put my voice in for that. to influence a good change or an awareness in people that they could be better human beings or whatever. So everything that I paint should have meaning. When I'm painting it, I don't do anything frivolous. Even you may think it's a simple landscape or a simple flower, but there's always a deeper meaning, either through the color or the symbols or whatever the story behind it is. So that's been my objective as an artist, not just to paint pretty pictures, but to go deeper than that. Because I feel like the first time I saw them painting a mural in my schoolyard, how powerful is our voice? How powerful is our art? And if we've been given this gift, we should use it. And if, being a professional artist and getting fed, being paid, and for my artwork and my time is all good, and I'm grateful for that. But the fact that my art touches people on a spiritual level and on a psychological level means more to me. Because if it makes you stop to think about something you never thought about before, or if it raises your consciousness some way, that's a different kind of currency for me. That's a different kind of payment.
So when did you graduated into doing bigger things, murals? Because I know that you started as canvas type of artist, and then.
Well, I always wanted to be a muralist since high school because I saw what they were doing, but because my father died and I wasn't able to do the mural in my studio in Las Vegas, I kind of postponed it. But then when I moved to LA, the seeds were there, and I just started. I did several, like at least 14, 15 murals in LA, and some of them were for community, and some of them in the barrios in Northeast LA, and some were in the schools, and teaching murals to the kids. But it just happened as a natural progression. It's like when you're going on your path and you follow spirit leads you to where you need to be, and everything has just fallen into place for me for some reason. But I think one of the last murals I did before I left LA was a large restoration mural. It was a restoration mural at the Indian Arts Museum at the Gene Autry, the old Gene Autry, the Southwest Museum of American Indian Arts. And the community loved this mural, but the original artist couldn't do it, and so they hired me to restore it. Now, doing your own imagery is one thing, but restoring a mural to make a mural look like it was painted by someone else is pretty challenging. And this was a huge mural, but it was loved by the community. So I worked about a year on that, and I learned a lot about an ego that an artist has, an artist ego. Because a lot of artists tried to help me, but they couldn't let go of their ego and give up their style and their way of doing things to create this artwork, reproduce this artwork. So I learned about humility and even the more techniques about art, how to copy an art piece that's done by somebody else. So it was a good experience, and the community loved that, and they're so supportive, and even the gangsters came by and protected it. I created a relationship with the gangsters so they wouldn't tag it, and it was just all the way around a good exchange for everybody.
Your own way, but you've been celebrated. At least I follow you on social media, and I know you're celebrated in so many. Your resume is impressive. I mean,
I try to convey what it is to be a human being, and our completeness. But really, my art, when I started it, was a spiritual path for me because of the energy and the color. And I see the energy behind the mundane, the energy behind physical things. And I want people to see that we're more than just the physical, that there's more to it than that. Even solid things have energy and movimiento, right? So I always believed that if I followed my path with heart, that spirit would take care of me, and that's what's happened. Things just fall into my path and what is necessary for me to do. And so I do that. So it's about connecting with humans and making our world better,
Right.
evolving as human beings. And I try not to contrive things. Like I don't contrive my paintings. I just allow them the inspiration to come and for them to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I track it. I just go where I need to be going. So things are starting to happen for me here in New Mexico, and I'm being called upon. And I do have some thoughts for some paintings, and um, con paciencia. So
Right.
keeping the balance is what I have to do right now.
We want to thank you for letting us into your world, your crazy
My
world.
crazy. La
And
locura, mi locura.
yeah, la locura, pero dicen que la locura cura, so it's
La
good.
locura cura.
It's so important, especially for our communities, to know a little bit about that quality of artists that we have in our state. We want to thank you. My name is Chuy Martinez, and we'll see you next time.